Hello, I'm Tim from Playing for Second, and thanks for joining me as we're taking a look at a game that just showed up in my mailbox about 10 days ago. So I was this past week I was perusing BGG and saw a comment from a user by the name of Eldark, who mentioned that there wasn't a whole lot of content from YouTube folks about unboxing. Well, this is going to be an unboxing-ish, in that I have already unboxed all the content we're taking a look at, and have it separated and have it organized within the boxes where it probably would reside for long term down the road. But figured we'd put the content out on the table and give you a chance to take a look. So with that, let's go to the table. Okay, so top down, we're looking at the Mythic Battles Isfet storage box. This is the one that's going to contain a lot of the game components, non-miniatures. So let's go ahead and open this guy up, see what we have in here. Now, taking a look at this, you see a lot of similarities to the previous titles within the series with Pantheon and Ragnarok. You've got a Cardwell over here spot for tokens. They actually improved this quite a bit, just creating a very solid designated place for those. This is also how I set the storage up. I believe this is a pretty decent way to do it so far. A couple sets of dice here. Here are the stat plates. That was one thing that they changed a little bit for folks that have both Ragnarok and Pantheon. The stat plates that they had for Ragnarok, the items here for the attributes, the icons, didn't quite match up with the cards themselves. So the new ones for Isfet actually match Ragnarok, I noticed. So I actually ended up getting an extra pack of these, tossed that in my Ragnarok box. As you can see, I'm talking about Pantheon, I'm talking about Ragnarok, talking about Isfet. This is a series that, while Josh and Brian don't necessarily have a full appreciation of, it is one that the family and I have a pretty good time with. The divinity stones for Isfet are they're scarabs. So in the first in Pantheon they were Omphalos. In Ragnarok they were runes. In Isfet they are scarabs. So you've got these the green ones, and then also there is a pack, and I'm not positive at this point what the difference is, but then there's a pack of these that are more gold. So yeah, it's again, other than that, it looks like pretty similar in the usage of the divinity stones. In the previous games, they actually do have different powers, and in Isfet it is a different power. When we get to that rule book, I'll take a look at that as well. As for the forests, the trees are quite a bit different. One of the things about the again top down in the box organization, they actually have some pretty solid slots for the trees to go in. Right there's just a couple of examples of what that standard tree looks like. And you also have the items that are placed in the ruins. A couple of those just for an example. And then one of the things I wanted to highlight just in the overall organization, see a little bit of an improvement over the prior two, where there is a component of the box that lifts right out, and then you have the rest of your tree storage down in that well. You don't have to worry about shoving them all into one one well all just crammed in there. So again, another improvement. Taking a look, I'm sure it's going to be difficult to see, but how the cards themselves are. We've got these dividers in here. So we've got the Art of War, Kepper, which is the Scarab cards in this game in Isfet. They're called Kepper. And then at least in here, we have the activation cards. I've got them set up where we've got all of the Titans first, then you get into the gods. I ended up snagging the sleeve bundle that came with this set, so you can see everything's already sleeved and put into the wells. We've got heroes. So from the divinity standpoint, you have your Titans and your gods. Then you've got a section here which is all the heroes, the monsters, and in continuation, the art here is at least for me pretty solid. Like I said, the family and I really dig the art. Then we've got troops. So the next unit type of troops. Here's a couple versions of what those guys look like. Again, pretty standard fare for the series. Nothing too ridiculously different there. As we were looking, the Titans, gods, heroes, and monsters, they all have a different quantity of activation cards, running between 3 and 5. And then all the troops just have a value of 3 there, so they all have the same quantity of cards. Then the Polemark and Jarl cards in this in this game are called Tijati, I believe is how it's pronounced. But they're basically the leader cards that you can attach these special powers to troops. So you have these available during the draft, and then you can again after the draft you end up attaching them to individual troops. And similar to the previous games, you've got, not sure how beneficial folks have found these. We have tended not to use these as much as just the full-blown placards that come along with each of the units. But they do have the stats here. They have the names of the powers, and they have the talents listed there. The talents, solid, stats solid. You don't necessarily see how the stats are affected as the vitality value goes down. That's one concern we'll tend to have. And then also you have the names of the powers and their type, but you don't really understand without having the verbiage there what exactly each of them does. So yeah, but they are in here. We've got those the recruitment cards. The other item in this one, I believe comes out in the scenarios, which I obviously haven't played here and haven't really had a chance to play much with with Ragnarok yet. But here are some what they call Book of the Dead cards. So it looks like they're special powers that you maybe are able to get as you go through those scenarios. Depending, again, I haven't played them, but I'm assuming it's depending on results of previous skirmishes or battles. All right, so talked a little bit about them, but there's the dice for this series, or for this title within the series. Again, kind of a translucent swirled green with the gold, or pretty much gold inlay for the markings there. other than that, pretty similar to what we've seen with the previous couple games in the series. All right, next thing wanted to take a look at, we're going to be the individual placards. We've got a just as an example, here is Bastet. With that, I'm actually going to take a maybe a sample of gods, a Titan, a couple heroes, and monsters. Couple monsters, and we'll take a look at those within the miniatures themselves. All right, so with that, I'm going to push that box out of the way, the storage box, and take a look at the couple maps that come in the main box itself. Let's see how that ends up showing up. Going to be able to see most of it, maybe not quite all of it on the top camera there. One of the things I've really enjoyed about this this game in the series in general is the art on the maps. While the art I really love, there is sometimes where the art can get in the way of the functionality, where you've got two spaces right here that are adjacent, but it can be somewhat difficult to see where exactly all the lines are, or all the barriers are. But other than that, again, it ends up looking very nice. At times, though, the graphic design can somewhat get in the way and make it a little bit more difficult. So standard fare from what we're used to, we've got open terrain here. We've got burning. I believe these are steps. That would make sense with the art that we have here. A couple of these are a little bit different. I believe these are just aquatic. And that might be, and then in the corners we've got, I believe they're called rocks. It's basically elevated, in this case statues, it looks like in the four corners. Neat color palette. Again, you kind of see the overall art direction definitely has that scarab-ish motif. Taking a look on the other side, as you can see, we've got a couple towers here, monolith, basically things that obstruct sight is the biggest thing. So those aren't necessarily going to be terrain pieces, but they are going to be things that get in your way, specifically with range attacks or well, that's probably going to be the big thing as I'm looking at the board here. Then you've got the water items here, and then these are just overall open areas. For the first time, we're seeing the forest there. And then also ruins way up here in the corner for some of the terrain pieces that you can add to the board as well. But yeah, neat overall art on the boards, and again the colors. Now this one is going to have somewhat similar color palette to the one that we were just looking at, but it brings in some of the more advanced terrain ideas or the boundaries. So specifically, here you've got an elevated situation where there's you get bonuses for to range and offense for firing downward on those. But yeah, other than that, again, you got a couple walls over here, forests, pretty standard. Again, you've got something going on here. Now there is a difference. I saw two different icons here, which I both thought were water. So we're going to have to take a closer look at that when we get to the rulebook. I believe this one. You know what? I'm not positive. I think that this one might be new and different. So all right, we will do that when we get there. Let's take a look at the other side of this one. another situation where we've got some just interesting color of the what I'm assuming to be again, it's a water. This one brings another terrain type that we're going to want to take a look at. Again, that's quite different than anything that I've seen up to this point, that I can remember, I should say. All right. Well, very good. With that, I'm going to put those on the storage box. Let's get that out of the way. Let's take a look at the core box, or what is called the core box. What ended up happening is, first of all, this is a very deep box compared to other ones within the series. I believe this is the deepest box. It is, the majority of this is rule books and miniatures. So that's what we haven't really seen any of the miniatures yet. So let's go ahead and take a look. Got the dice tray that came with Isfet. Standard from what we've seen in the previous games. You've got the rule book right here. You've got the scenarios. I have all the scenario books combined just in this box, and then 2 player rates. This is, I have found to be pretty solid player aids, especially things like talents. Again, it's one of those things, there's a lot of keywords. Once you know those keywords, the complexity of the game significantly decreases, but when you're still learning them, boy, it's great to have something like this to help you out. Terrains and their impacts. Here's another item that they do a pretty good job of explaining exactly how all that works. And boundaries, we were just talking about those with that heights, that top down gives you a little bit of idea right here, gaining 1 offense and 1 range, specifically when you're targeting the lower areas. So a couple items. I'm going to toss this over here on the on our other camera, so we can take a closer look at right in here. This was one of the areas I was talking about that I thought was a little bit different. Divine Growth. Again, I don't remember seeing that one in the previous two titles. Another one down here, Quicksand. Don't remember seeing that one either. And then we get down here to the bottom, and here are the 2 we were referring to with the water. One of them is Sacred Waters. Again, I don't remember that one. Looks like that one's a little different. And then the standard water or aquatic. That's again, that's the one we're probably more familiar with. Solar. I don't remember that one either. So again, it looks like they've added a couple different terrains. Taking a look, it looks like they've got some interesting abilities or interactions that occur when you enter, or in this case, so a unit entering this sacred water area immediately ends activation and regains a vitality point. It's kind of a neat way to keep some of your weaker units or weakening units back in the get them back in the game. So again, kind of a neat approach to a overall similar title within the series. So going back over here, we've got our rule book. We've got a series of scenario books, one for the core box, one for the Eternal Cycle box. That is this title's version of the Titan box, and then Duat, which is the I'll say like the base expansion. That does it is basically the items you honestly would expect to see within the core box that didn't come in the core box. Brian and I were talking about that earlier. I think with Ragnarok, it was Odin that didn't come in the core box. And when you think about Norse mythology, that's, other than Thor maybe, Odin's probably going to be the second divinity or god that you think of. Taking a look at the just sticking with that idea, you see the same thing with Isfet. So Ra, probably being one of the more common Egyptian gods, isn't found in the core box, but is found in the again in this, it's the Eternal Cycle. So going back to the rule book. The rule book, I'm seeing, I'll say it's, I don't see any significant improvements here. So some of the maybe some of the issues that folks have had with the prior rule books, you're going to see those here. But for the most part, it's not a bad setup. I mean, there is a little bit of maybe some sequencing that could be improved upon as I had gone through it. But again, it's one of those things where when you know the previous games, reading through this, very easy and very straightforward. I mean, it's almost, but at that point, it's almost a reminder, not as much as a for the first time rule book. Does a pretty good job, again, going through all the key components, talking about the troop types or the unit types right in here, and then getting into characteristics, which again we were talking about them previously. I think I call them attributes, but characteristics of a unit. Troops, they're a little bit different. The powers within each of the different units as well gives you a little bit of a anatomy of the dashboard for each of the units. Overall setup, again, I think I haven't done a side by side on this, but I'm pretty sure it's if it's not a copy paste, it's awful close to being a copy paste from what you're probably used to seeing. I believe this right here, even this page about the turn sequence, and then a couple of the other items that happen throughout the turn, I'm pretty sure that's pretty much directly lifted from the previous games. This right here, I think they actually did a better job in highlighting the fast flight, or the options that you have with flying class of units. That felt like it was kind of hidden in previous games. And as usual, they go through a pretty decent example. Not only of explaining the rules prior, but then going through a pretty solid example of how the combat and the two sequence, or two sets of resolution that you go through with the assault, the first assault and the second assault. Battlefields, this is where it gets into some of the details about the boards themselves, talking about those boundaries, the four key boundary items. Talks a little bit in detail about the terrain, but to be honest, it doesn't get into much more detail than what is on that the pretty good player aids that come, the 2 player aids that come with the game, and then talents. A little bit more here. Maybe that explains a little bit more in a little bit more detail. So you might have to refer to this, especially early on. But as you develop or see these talents, a couple times, becomes a little bit more clear. And again, that player aid is going to really help you out. The classes, so each unit has a class associated with it. Vast majority of them don't have one of these icons, and in that case, they're considered terrestrial. So, and the effect is none. So basically, it's you have a class, but there's really no effect to it. One of them that kind of stuck out to me, you have Boreal here, which is for polar terrain effects. I didn't see anything in this game, as you would expect, that really has that. So, but it's still in the rulebook here. I'm assuming that's if you end up mashing up maybe some of these units with some of the other or other units with different boards. I'm not positive. Like I said, I haven't looked in detail at each specific unit. But when I look at the boards, I didn't see anything that looked like it was polar terrain. Instead, we're seeing a lot more potentially like in the fireproof side of things. A lot more burning on this one in this title. Then it just goes through setups for the different boards. So again, similar to what we've seen in the past. Scenarios, again. I haven't even cracked those yet, but let me back up. I haven't looked in detail with what I looked at just flipping through them, didn't really see anything that really stood out much different from probably from what we're used to seeing with the previous games in the series. We go ahead and get the big box out of the way. Let's take a look. There are two mini boxes or smaller boxes, I should say, of the miniatures. One thing I did want to point out that I really liked, so the previous games had end loading boxes, which were somewhat, quite difficult to get stuff in and out of. Moving to to this type of box where the lid comes out, as a more of a lever there, I found that to be significantly nicer than what we had seen in the past. Within this box, you've got two trays. One is mostly troops, handful of heroes down here, and then the bottom section you're getting into some of the monsters, and then also some of the gods themselves. Let's take a look at. I think the first item we had here was Bastet, and I believe she is right in this box right here. So there is her miniature. Now, one of the things I noticed in this, and I think I've, to a certain degree, had some questions about this in maybe some of the other ones. It seemed to me like the scale of this game seemed maybe a little bit smaller. That could be completely in my head, though. I have not gotten stuff from this game and put it side by side with the other ones. But boy, when I opened this, I for some reason I was thinking that the scale was a little bit smaller. Not sure what that means or if it's even true, but it was something that I was going to take a look at. So here's Isis, another core divinity within the pantheon. And one of the larger miniatures within this box is Ma'at. But yeah, so far, I've really been liking the what we've been seeing so far. And again, for folks who maybe aren't as familiar, that they got a pretty standard approach here, where you've got the stat clips that are going to start here at your maximum vitality, and as you take damage, it's going to work its way down. As it works its way down, your characteristics are going to decrease as you go there. Up here is a class, so in this case it's a flying class. Obviously you've got the name here, the draft points. Most of the divinities, I think all of them in this game are 6 until you get to the Titans. You've got a indication here how many activation cards are associated with this unit. Couple, usually 2 or 3 talents associated, and again, this is that really helpful that player aid's going to help you out with that climb, curse, mobility, and torment. Down here at the bottom, that COR just helps you know that this unit is in the core box. And then in this case, you've got a couple powers over there. And this is where I was saying that the recruitment cards will have the name of those powers, but not necessarily get into the details that you really need to understand in order to be able to play and maybe even look for synergies within the units that you're drafting. All right, let's take a look at those. So those were a couple of divinities. Let's take a look at a couple heroes. So here we have Akhenaten. There are 2 that are very, very similar. He is one of them. And as you can see on the overall anatomy of the dashboard stays pretty pretty similar across all the units. Color changes to help you know what type of units you're dealing with. So the divinities, or the gods specifically, are gold. Heroes are this silver. Let's take a look at another one. We have Cleopatra. And another one that's in this core box is Nefertiti. Interesting model. I'm not sure exactly what's going on here with what's with the the wind there, or whatever is making the what appears to be a scarf kind of float like that. But yeah, very intricate for some of the miniatures that we've seen in both this and the other titles within the series. Okay, taking a look at a couple monsters. We've got a couple here in the main, or this first box. So here is Bennu. Now, I'm not as familiar with this with this pantheon. So I mean, this is giving me vibes of like Phoenix, specifically with the flying and the fireproof class that's associated with the monster. All right, so we've got the going from the flying to more the slitherers. So we've got Uraeus here. And those were the items I was there. Obviously, there are many more within the box here. But with that, I think I'm going to close this one up and go to the second box, because there is a second box of miniatures just in the core game. And again, I really want to give some appreciation for that box design. Boy, that makes getting in and out and having access to stuff quite a bit easier than you tended to have in the previous couple titles. So let's with this new box, or the next box, let's take a look at Horus. So this is one of the gods. Again, in the core box, just in the bottom mini box. And as you can see, this one I may have spoken too soon. This one has some pretty good scale to it. This is a pretty sizable miniature. We've got a couple other ones specifically in this box that show that off. Another god here is Set. And even in the top down, if you can see that there are several other ones that I wasn't going to necessarily get into, but there are again a lot of options within in general with these games, but specifically in this one as well. All right, so a couple monsters, kind of wanted to highlight here. This is one of the larger ones in the core box. Isfet. See if I can even get the whole thing in the camera here. Yeah, with those comments that I had about the scale, I'm taking that all back. The more I'm looking at these definitely are as sizable as what we've seen in the previous. Short of the Titans, short of the Titan boxes of the previous titles. Then we have Isfet, and Isfet is, I'll say, at least game-wise, is somewhat similar to what we have seen with Fenrir, where you have a monster option and then also a Titan option. But this is the most sizable, the large oval size miniature that comes in the core box. There is one other one that is a more of a chariot. Again, not as chunky as this one. But yes, so Isfet is available as a monster and also as a Titan. We'll be taking a look at a couple other Titans here in a sec. All right, so those were the items I was really wanting to show from the core box. Again, just to give you a quick example or summary of what's in that box. With that, I was going to go to the next main box that we were looking hoping to take a look at, and that is the Eternal Cycle. Again, this is kind of the the quote unquote Titan box for this specific title. We've got Apophis here, Ra here. I think there was a Geb or Jeb, and I can't remember the name of the scarab down here. But let's go ahead and take a look. Same idea. They ended up using a similar approach. Again, this is a very deep box for a pretty deep miniature box for a pretty deep just overall game box. But they used that similar approach. Really easy to get in and out of these and just get stuff out of them. This was one of the ones where I was a little bit concerned on the scale. This seemed like the miniatures in the Titan box were a little bit smaller than what we've become used to in the other titles. As an example, here is Apophis, which I would tend to compare to, and maybe inappropriately so, but tend to compare to Jormungand, which I don't get the same feeling with this one, with this miniature, that I did with the with Jormungand. But still, pretty solid, and pretty sizable. Lots of I'll say there's a lot more space, blank space within this model, where Jormungand was just like a fist or a double fist of plastic. Details on this don't feel or seem as sharp to me as what we've tended to see in the other models, or I'll say similar models of other titles. We're not seeing as much in the bases. I don't know if that's because it's just supposed to be sand and supposed to be flat, but I figured we would probably see a little bit more base detail than what we ended up seeing in these. And I didn't grab the dashboard, but similar to what I was saying, here's Ra. Again, pretty sizable from that standpoint. The only concern I have is that, boy, it feels pretty plain. There just doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of detail within the miniature itself. A lot of flat spaces without a whole lot of detail. All right, let's go ahead and we'll close this one, get it out of the way, take a look at the last box here, which is the Duat box, which I'm not positive what to compare this to. I don't know if it's similar to the Asgard box from Ragnarok. But let's go ahead and take a look. One of the things it does come with is this an additional board, and like we've seen, double-sided. So you've always got the multiple options here. So again, between this and the base game, you've got six options basically for battlefields on which to play. Couple statues here, burning. Looks like this is that new quicksand terrain type. Looks like you've got some over here in the corners as well. Some neat colors on this one. Got some of the sacred, again, some of the new terrain types on the on this board. Got a couple walls here on the edge. Again, overall, I really like the art. All right, so there is the game board that comes with Duat. Let's take a look at the miniatures. This was one where I opened it up, looked down, and said, "Oh my goodness! It seems like there's a lot of air in this box." Again, there's still quite a bit of content in here, but boy, I don't know. For some reason, I guess in my mind, I just figured there was going to end up being a little bit more. Let's go ahead and start with the divinities that come within this box. So first up, we've got Osiris. Again, a pretty common, well, I would say one of the more common gods within the pantheon. And another one that is pretty common, and that's Anubis. This one has some articulation within the base. All right, and another, and I'll say final monster I was hoping to look at was, I believe it's Kurti. This is one. It's a large circular base, but it's this is another pretty substantial miniature overall. Again, I think they've done a real good job on not having. They don't have near the problem of the bendy. Especially even the elongated components. I haven't really had problems with them being too stiff, that they're brittle and that they break, but they also aren't. They tend to be pretty straight. So yeah, with the big monster coming out of the Duat expansion, as you can see, even just in the top down, there's a couple other couple other monsters that came. I believe this one actually is a hero, so maybe we have one hero, a couple other monsters, and then here's another hero, and there's Tutankhamun. So I know that that's a hero as well, hero unit, and then a couple troops. So that is the content from all of the boxes within the all-in pledge. It's specifically for Isfet. So with that, let's go ahead and just talk about the overall experience so far. Well, thanks for joining for our unboxing-ish of Mythic Battles Isfet. Again, wanted to send a shout out to Eldark for just putting a comment on BGG mentioning that there was not a whole lot of unboxings out there. Again, kind of got us thinking about it and decided to pull one together for folks. Again, you saw I ended up getting everything out. Is pretty much organized how I think I'm going to end up keeping it. So far, really liking what I'm seeing. Haven't been able to get the game to the table yet. Hoping to do that within the next week or so. But with that, till we see you next time. Thanks for joining.